Hallo, guten Tag, Deutschstudentin von 1102, Sommer 2019. Hier ist Dr. Dettinger und dieses Video erklärt Ihnen Komparativ und Superlativ. Okay, so let's get started with this. Making comparatives is rather simple. Okay, it starts with the most basic is to add an ER to either an adjective or an adverb to make the comparative form. For instance, schnell becomes schneller. Okay, and if I want to compare two different objects, I will use the word als. Okay, for instance, das Auto ist schneller als das Fahrrad, or even ich bin schneller als du. Okay, there are going to be some exceptions, right? If we have a one-syllable word that contains a vowel, okay, then we're going to add an umlaut to make that comparative, in addition to adding the ER at the end. For instance, in a single vowel, single syllable, word such as lang that uses an A, the comparative form will be länger. Okay, we add that umlaut to that in addition to the ER. For instance, der Mississippi-Fluss ist länger als der Ohio-Fluss. Or if we have a single syllable word such as oft, it would become öfter. All right. Ich gehe öfter ins Kino als du. Or if we have a you, yeah, jung, it'll become jünger. Right? Ich bin jünger als mein Vater. Just there's three examples here. Okay. And then there are some adjectives that end in el and also er. So let's look at dunkel. Dunkel will become dunkler, and then it changes then to do something like this. Guinness ist dunkler als Budweiser if we're comparing the two different beers, right? Guinness having more of almost a black complexion, and Budweiser having a lighter color, lager complexion. Or teuer would become teurer. Okay, so Starbucks ist teurer als Folgers if we're comparing the two coffee brands. Okay, there are, of course, some irregular forms. I shouldn't say of course, but oftentimes in German there is always some type of exception or irregular form to some of these adverbs and adjectives. So let's look at this one, for instance, hoch, all right, will change to höher. Viel will change to mehr in its comparative form. Gut will become besser, right? We wouldn't want to say something is gooder, it's better, besser. Okay, gern will become lieber. So a few examples here. Die Alpen sind höher als die Smokies. 20 ist mehr als 10. Deutsches Brot ist besser als amerikanisches Brot. Das ist meine Meinung. Ich trinke gern Tee, aber ich trinke lieber Kaffee. Okay, so just to show you how some of these are set up. Okay. Oftentimes too, just as we have adjective endings, right, in all of the different cases, nominative, accusative, dative, and genitive, when we use a comparative form, we have to keep that in mind too, okay? So you have to add the appropriate ending in addition to the comparative form. So something is groß or größer, yeah? For instance, dieses Zimmer ist groß, aber ich möchte das größere Zimmer. Okay, so we make it the comparative form, plus we add the appropriate ending. Ich möchte ein größeres, so to show you the difference between a definite article das and indefinite article ein. Okay, so we have to keep in mind too that these examples here are accusative case. So if you have something as masculine, right? Ich möchte den schnelleren Wagen. All right, we have to have that written as such. Okay, so we have schneller and then schnelleren. Gut. Okay, a note on all of those adjective endings. A lot of that is from content in the very first semester, so the first half of this text. If you have specific questions on that, please do let me know, and I can give you some materials to review that. Moving on to the superlative. So now we're comparing more than two things, right? Schnell, schneller, and then we can see what happens here. Am schnellsten. Okay, so we create this am and then schnellsten. So this is very similar to actually using the dates. So if you recall that, ordinal, die Ordinalzahlen, erste, zwei, zweite, and then on a date, am 2. Mai, right? It's similar to this. Okay, so we add this am plus sten. Okay, and if the adjective or adverb ends in a D or a T or an S sound, then we add an E. Okay, for instance, neuer, am neuesten. Okay, and then most one or single syllable adjectives or adverbs with vowels are still going to be umlauted in the superlative. For instance, warm, wärmer, am wärmsten. Okay, just to show a couple of examples there. And then also too, just as we did with the comparative form with the adjectives, okay, we have to consider the adjective ending, okay. For example, BMW ist der schnellste Wagen. Okay, so it's different than saying BMW ist am schnellsten. Then we're saying BMW is the fastest. But if I'm specifying that it's the fastest car, right, der schnellste Wagen, we have to have that appropriate adjective ending there. Okay, it can be used in the nominative case as seen above, or in the accusative case. For instance, ich fahre den schnellsten Wagen. Okay, the first example, BMW ist der schnellste Wagen, is nominative simply because of the verb sein, or in the third person form conjugation ist. Okay, and then here we have it as a direct object, now accusative case, excuse me. Ich fahre den schnellsten Wagen. I drive the fastest car. Okay, and that concludes this tutorial. If you do have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Danke. Tschüss.